All right, welcome back to the Built to Grow podcast. I'm your host, Tim Lyons, in the studio for episode 400 of the Built to Grow podcast. Hit the applause.
Ooh.
Joined, as always, by Randy Inkson. What's up, buddy?
Hey, congrats.
Congratulations to you. You know, when we first started this show, I guess, what year was it? I don't know.
I could not keep track if I tried.
You know,
2.5, 3 years ago.
Yeah, the Ryan Helms, who's Legacy Podcasting, he'll be a sponsor at a Grow Summit. He was like, "Hey, you know what? You guys are keep the pace, blah blah." And then we got into like 25 episodes. He's like, the average podcast stops at 7 episodes. I was like, "Oh, we got that beat."
Oh yeah, no worries there.
And here we are today. But well, thank you guys. We wouldn't be doing this show if it wasn't for all the feedback we get. We hear it all the time, guys. It'll be a post in our group, hey, thank you for this episode, or you really hit it on this one, or I have a question on this episode. Mm-hmm. We just really appreciate you guys listening in and following along and helping us kind of drive the mission forward, which is to help you win, right?
Correct.
If you're listening to the show, it's because you're a gym owner. It's all about helping you win. And so we appreciate you guys, and we're excited to get into another one. Another, this isn't a season. I guess it's 23, but we're just continuing these on.
Yeah, and this is a perfect example. I mean, we polled our business talk group on Facebook is on what they wanted to hear for episode 400, and today's episode is going to be just that. So
yeah. For whatever reason, like episode 50, 100, 150, 200, we try to do like a bigger show, a more prevalent topic. We kind of, so if you go back, if you want to listen to some of our harder hitting episodes, they're on the number. You're on the zero, right? 50 or 100 or whatever. So this episode, guys, this came from the group, like Randy said, and it was really about, hey, I'm in a flux in my business. I feel like want to start to remove myself. I feel like I'm chained to it. I feel like I want to do other things. And I know this feeling really well. Mm-hmm. We get into these businesses, and as an entrepreneur, it's like you don't always have the exit plan. And I think one of my earliest mentors, like whenever you start a business, you should start with the exit plan first.
Yeah.
And especially in a partnership, right? If you're going to get into a partnership with somebody else, you need to talk about when you guys everything's still on good terms, talk about what happens if I want out of the business, you want out of the business. What does that look like? And you do that up front. So then if the time comes, it may never, that you know what to do, right? It's already been written out. This is the plan. So I think a lot of us get in these gyms, we build gyms, and we think, this is the end goal. The end goal is the gym.
Yeah.
And for some it is. And for some it is, and I think that's great. You can afford a nice lifestyle if you run a great operation and have high profit margins. Me personally, I don't think one gym's going to get you to the finish line of life. I just don't. And I've told the Iron Circle this. I've told many people that I trust, in this. I think, one's great. It's not going to make you wealthy. You'll have a nice lifestyle, but I personally would want more.
Yeah.
And I do. And so that brings the topic up, like, hey, if you're in your business every day, you can't do anything else. Mm-hmm. The business relies on you. And so if you go back way, way back, and it may even be in the first 3 episodes we've ever did, we talked about the cash flow quadrant. It was the book from Robert Kiyosaki that changed my mindset. I'm like, hey, what are we really doing here in business? And if you haven't heard this on this episode 50 times by now, I'm just going to explain it really quickly so anybody listening for the first time can understand what we're coming from. In the cash flow quadrant, you have 4 quadrants. Picture a piece of paper with a big T on it, right? Top left, top right, bottom right. Quadrants, and in each one of these quadrants, it's your relationship with how you earn money.
Correct.
Right. This is everybody in life fits into one of these buckets, unless you're a trust fund baby and you just get money. I mean,
I guess,
maybe that person doesn't live on.
Skip the quadrants entirely. I mean, sure.
Just money shows up,
or you never, or you never earn an income in any way. I guess it would be the other end of the spectrum, right? You just.
So we'll get into these really quickly. On the top left of the quadrant, if you picture a T on on a piece of paper, on the top left you have the letter E. E stands for employee. You go to work, you get paid for a job, and you go home. And typically I I guess the limits of your earning potential live within the job.
Yeah.
Right. You know, sometimes the harder you work, get a bonus or something like that. But you're trading time technically or services for a paycheck.
Yeah, the exchange of that value. Yep.
And I would tell you this: the most of America or the world lives in this quadrant, and it's totally fine. It's not like if you're there, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's just that's the physical thing. That's the way you make money. And you know, my parents, my dad lived in all of these quadrants at one time, but now he's back in the E quadrant. Like your mom was in the E, my sister's in the E. You know, in a lot of our family members and a lot of people that go to your gym are living in the E, and they'll live and die in the E, and that's it, and that's okay. But there's more, especially to you listening, the gym owners listening. You're like, hey, I'm not an employee. What am I? So if you go down to the bottom left of the corner, you have SE. SE stands for self-employed. You may own a business on paper, the LLC, you might have the sign on the door, but in order for that business to earn revenue, it requires you, the owner's input and labor in the operation.
Yep.
If you were to remove yourself, and that's a stress test sometimes we would do, if you were to leave for 4 weeks, could the business run and grow? Most of gym owners out there, at least the ones we talk to, micro gyms, mom and pop gyms, this is where they live.
Yeah, the majority of our clients, sure.
And in their head, they've always felt, I own a business, but essentially you own a job, right?
Yeah.
Think about this. If you're in the day-to-day of your operations, if you do sales or training or do programming or any of that stuff that keeps the business moving forward in operation, you're self-employed. And again, none of these are good or bad. It's just, this is the reality. And so, you know, you're self-employed. If you were to leave for 4 weeks, you'd probably fall apart. You're living here. Now, in the top right, you have BO, which is, you know, not body odor, but business owner. A business owner person owns the business. The business owns the systems that run the business.
Correct.
So again, removing you as the owner of the business, it's not going to affect the day-to-day operations of the business. It's going to flow. It's going to work with or without you there. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of the people we work with in our accelerator program want to go from self-employed into business owner quadrant. And why wouldn't they? Mm-hmm. When you move up into the top right corner as a business owner, you gain one major thing back, and it's time. Time. You have time to do other things or do nothing if you wanted to, right? But you would think if somebody's worked that hard to get to a business owner, they're not going to just go and sit at home and watch
their feet up.
Watch Netflix all day. Then in the bottom right-hand corner, you have the letter I, which stands for investor. Investor, somebody's made money in maybe any one of those other three quadrants, and they put that money to work that then becomes maybe passive income or lifestyle income, or, you know, there's some people that could be in multiple quadrants at the same time. There's some people can be in all four quadrants at the same time.
Absolutely.
If you think about it.
Yep.
So you could be in the E and the I at the same time. You could, every dollar that you go and make, and as an employee, you go and invest it, and then you have two forms of growing, which is cool, right? And you should live in all of these at all times, I would think. And so now that that's kind of clear, most of you either have heard yet, but if somebody's hearing for the first time, you get a lot aha.
Yeah.
You get a lot of ahas right here, right? And like, okay. So the big kind of topic question is like, how do I get out of that self-employed and get into this business owner role so I can remove myself from the business? And there's a lot of steps to this. There's some books we're going to recommend at the end of the show that you guys can go jump on and read, but this is something I've done personally. Yeah. Like, I've gotten myself out of the gym business, or technically out of the day-to-day operations of the gym business, and I've become a business owner on the gym. You know,
true.
The gym does not require me to be here. It does not require me to train anybody or make sales. And I think the quintessential picture of what a business owner is what I do here. You go in, you talk to a couple people, you shake hands, you talk to the clients, and then you leave.
Yeah.
And to many of you listening, like, that's a dream. If I could just do that, Tim, this is my life.
If I could get paid to do that.
My life is complete. And hey, you know what? You can.
Absolutely.
You can. And so this is the, I guess there's phases of entrepreneurship, and this is the one right in the middle where you don't know how to get out, right?
Yeah.
And because you've built this business around you as the gym owner, you've designed it to not let you out.
Yeah.
And that's something you could change today.
Yeah. And that's a common one. A lot of people build themselves so deep into the business for so many reasons, and I'm sure we'll get into a lot of those, but that is probably the situation we find most individuals that want to make that ascension into the business owner role. They don't realize how deep they've put themselves into. They've become the systems. They've become the job themselves, or the delivery of the service themselves, so much that reeling that back is a big hurdle.
There's a ton of mindset that goes into this particular problem that you find yourself in. And I'll let you chime in on them, but there's two camps when it comes to, I guess, business owners or entrepreneurs is a buzzword, right? The camp on the left is like hustle, grind, get it done, 24/7, no days off on the left hand. And the other side of it is, hey, work to create this flows and have a balance and have, this kind of steady Eddie life and everything's good over here, but everything's running great. Mm-hmm. And they're opposites, because the guy on the right camp would look at the person hustling and grinding and be like, yeah, that's cool. That just means you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
You're working too hard because you didn't set up that means you're not doing it right. You didn't set the things up right. You're actually worse off than anybody else. Mm-hmm. And then the person on that camp is looking at the guy that's steady Eddie over here and saying, that guy doesn't work hard enough. He'll never make it. Like if you want to get to the end goal, you better grind, right?
Yeah.
And so you find yourself in one of those two camps. I've always found myself in the grind camp.
Yeah, I think it's a spectrum for sure.
Yeah, total big
Absolutely.
spectrum.
Yeah, because you do. I mean, and ultimately, you kind of want to find yourself somewhere in the middle.
Sure.
A great. I was just heard it on. I think Andy Frisella was talking about it. Was aggressive patience. And it's kind of the middle ground there, right? Because you got the one camp over there that's like, everything that I desire is coming to me. I don't have to, worry about it. The path is laid and it's coming, right? The hyper manifestations and all the way down that spectrum, right? And then you've got the guy over there who wants to control every opportunity and take every opportunity and every action that's possible. And there's a detriment to both sides of that, right? Mm-hmm. It's a blessing and a curse type situation. One end, you're not getting the results as fast as it's possible, or maybe at all, because it's idealistic to some degree. You have to take the actions, to get the result. But then the other end is like you can absolutely pound your head against the wall, thinking you're doing the right things or taking every opportunity and just outwork or like burn yourself out. You know what I mean? Get to the point where, why am I doing all of this without any realization of like it's going to take time. Some things do take time, and that's where the middle ground, that aggressive patience comes in. That it's going to take time, but you're still taking every opportunity and every chance that you have as it presents itself and continue moving the needle or the ball forward. Yeah. And so, within that spectrum, you got to find, where do you want to be in that? And, making sure that when that opportunity presents itself, you're kicking those doors open and still moving forward. That's huge.
Definitely. Yeah, you don't want to just sit on your thumbs, and you definitely don't want to like just work to work. So there's two different ends of the spectrum. Now, the definition of entrepreneur in the classic term is totally different than maybe what some of the authors that we're reading are talking about. The one author I'm talking about is Mike Michalowicz in the book Clockwork. Guys, if you find yourself in this position, Clockwork would be a great book, because this talks about all about the role of the entrepreneur is to create jobs, not to do the jobs.
There you go.
So once he found himself in that position, it's like, okay, well, wait a minute, I'm doing everything. It's not my job or my role to do the jobs, it's to create the jobs. And if you think about it that way, whoa, wait a minute, that makes sense. So if you create all of your workflows to go through you have created yourself a job. You'll live in the self-employed quadrant for the rest of your life because it has to go through you. But if you create the workflows to go through your team, you empower them to make decisions on behalf of the end goal of the business, and they have the best interest of the business in mind, you'll find yourself being able to remove yourself a lot faster.
Well, let's relate that to the fitness business, or the actual position that a lot of you gym owners are in. Is it the programming that has to go through you? Is it the actual servicing of the client and the training has to be done? How many people, if you find yourself in that camp where you truly believe that your membership base wants to train with you and only you, not your other trainers and things like that, that's a problem, guys, not a benefit.
The workflow has to go through you.
Yeah, exactly. You're the linchpin in that growth, right? It has to happen on your control, time, energy, effort, whatever it may be. You are building yourself into that business, forcing yourself to have to be there and not put yourself in a who, not how situation. And that's ideally where, Mike's saying that you should be. You should be looking for the players to fulfill the roles that your business, needs, not how do I go do all of this for my business?
Yeah, and I'm thinking about a friend of ours, Tommy John, and he's opening up a gym right now. He's in a perfect position to create the workflows to go through his team versus him. So maybe he has oversight of how to do the roles, but somebody else is doing the roles, and that's the way it should be. And if you create that kind of environment, that culture, you'll find yourself in that business owner role really, really quickly.
Well, and that's where, SOPs or standard operating procedures, processes, systems, these are the things that we talk about all the time that I think some of it's kind of nuanced or lost sometimes.
Noise.
Exactly, right? It's not sexy when we talk about systems because most people are like, oh, that's just it's software or automation or a process in my gym. It's not fun. Until you find out that is exactly what has to happen in order for you to get your time back, in order for you to be able to put that designation or that role on somebody else, not on your shoulders, forcing you to have to do that work. That is sexy as hell.
Yes, and one thing we have to understand is there's plenty of people out there that would love to just be in that employee role for the rest of their life, and they're happy.
Correct.
In fact, there's worker bees all over that's what makes the world go around. Not everybody's an entrepreneur. In fact, there's people that look at us like, hell no, I don't want to do none of that. I don't want to do anything to do with what that guy's doing. They would rather clock in, clock out, shut their brain off at the end of the day on Friday night or whatever, and have a great weekend with their family. Cool. Hey. Those are the people that you put in the roles to do the jobs at the gym. So you nailed one, programming. You nailed two, training, sales has to get done.
Marketing.
Not necessarily outsourcing those things, but controlling the process of how those things get done, but you not doing those things.
Correct.
That's the whole ticket to this. I guess that's the key to get to the other side is control the process so it still has quality control, right? You can't just let everybody, you do this, you do that, not with any direction because the place will fall apart. You guide them and let them go.
Well, there's two things to that. One, I know that you have a belief when it comes to somebody else being able to take over the reins of certain tasks and responsibilities and things like that. I know this has gone back to early episodes of the podcast, and this is something that you taught me the second that we started working together, was that when there is a task that you're looking to offload or to put on somebody else or have somebody else take the reins on, when they're able to do that job about 80% as effective as you, that's the opportunity for them to take over those reins, and then you coach them up and fill that gap.
Yeah,
right. This is where leadership comes into place, and that's another thing that I think has to happen in order to ascend. Is you have to develop as an individual to be able to lead a team, not just be the guy who knows the job really well, right? You have to be able to coach and share that information, be able to, and that's a hard thing for a lot of people is, I know this like the back of my hand, but how do I get that information out of me into a system or process, not only for somebody else to be able to follow, but how can I coach to that? Can I teach this?
Yes.
Do I know it well enough to teach somebody else?
Yes.
And then the other half was,
decisions.
Well, the decisions, that has to happen. You have to be able to instill trust in other people. That's the hard. I think that's a big gap for where people are.
A lot of gym owners want to have control over everything.
Yeah.
Business owners in general. So if you want all the control, well, you're going to find yourself having to make those decisions in the business, and therefore you're in the role of self-employed for the rest of your life.
And I think the control is because ultimately you are in control left or right. Right, it's your business, your brand. If you set up the processes, you employ the people. Like that is you. That's the control that you have. If you feel the need to control the result, and the exact outcome, like the process should give you a similar result each time.
Yeah.
And you've developed a great process. But if you have to have your hand in it, doing it and delivering it, you're never going to get out of that step.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I just want to touch on that real quick, because a lot of gym owners don't understand where the time comes from or what roles and responsibilities they can pass to somebody else. And so I think that's where time audit can come into play. I think if you find yourself in this position and you're looking to, maybe it's not step out of the gym yet, but you know that you need more time in your day to maybe step in and work on the business more rather than in the business, do a time audit. Literally, track every single thing that you do throughout, a number of days throughout the week. A couple of days, give yourself kind of an average work day and figure out what are the specific tasks that you're doing. When I do this with our clients, I had to really elaborate on what I meant, because it's easy to say, I spend the next, from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. I'm on the training floor, then 8 a.m. till noon I'm in the office doing office work. Well, you got to define that. You have to be really clear on what office work is, right? Are you doing follow-ups with prospects? Are you reaching out to, disgruntled clients? Are you, whatever it may be? If you're not clear on the exact tasks that you're doing, there's no way that you can offload any of that. So be hyper clear of where your time is spent. And then the next process that I have everybody go through is automate, delegate, and eliminate. First, easiest is just eliminate. What are my, tasks, or what am I doing throughout the day that I just don't need to be doing? Maybe it's scrolling Facebook or Instagram for 20 minutes every hour on the hour, or whatever that fluff is, get rid of it.
Right.
Delegate or automate and eliminate, automate and then delegate come next. Automate, what of this can be put onto a system? Maybe Keep, maybe automation, maybe it's, nurtures to lead to
bill pays.
To book. Yeah, exactly. Automatic bill pays, or if this is the stuff that's taking your time and you could put it into a system to do the work for you, set it up once and that system repeats every time that has to happen. Guys, you got time back instantly. That's a benefit of automation.
True.
And then delegation, right? What are these roles and responsibilities that are on my plate right now that ultimately I should, or I can, or I desire to hand off to a teammate? What are those clear objectives?
Yeah.
That's where you start. And then instantly you found that, 3 hours, 4 hours of every day, I now got back. And then what do you do with that time?
Exactly. And so you're listening to this as a gym owner and you're like, oh my gosh, where do I find the time? This would be the exercise to do. Well, I'm so busy during the day. Well, you're going to have to do this at night. You're going to have to go back and look at your day at night when you're at home after dinner and the kids are asleep. You get back on that damn computer and you grind it out. Right
now, yeah.
And I want to go back to the grind or not grind thing.
Sure.
The fact that the word or grind into, that's kind of got a negative connotation, but it's also synonymous with hard work. I don't think any of this happens without hard work regardless. So call it what you will. You can't just watch Netflix at night when your business is struggling and you're trying to take a load off and kick your feet up. You can't just sit there. You got to get back on the computer, either do research, set up SOPs, do your time audit. And yeah, you may find yourself looking at the clock at 2:30 a.m. It happened to me all the time. I'm up and because that's when nobody's bothering me, so I'll get up and do the work then. And then that's the sacrifice it takes in order to get to the business owner role. You can't just snap your fingers and manifest it. It just doesn't. I mean, it's great on paper, but you've got to do this work. So call it grinding, call it hustling, whatever it is. You're never going to get to the business owner role without doing some of that.
Well, here's the fact: you're choosing your hard. You know what's really hard? Being broke.
Yeah.
Like not being able to pay your bills. Like that's a hard that I really don't want to sit in that seat.
Or work hard.
Spend a little bit more time, effort, energy, when everybody else goes to bed. Cool. You got another hour, 2 hours of work that you have to put in.
Yep.
And that's the entrepreneurial vision. It's the whole, I will do more than what everybody else is willing to do right now.
Yep.
Work harder right now and create for myself the ability to not have to do that for the rest of my life. And that was instilled in me at probably 18, 19 years old, right? Put the work in now, build it's like investing in yourself, investing in your future, investing in the business, do all that stuff right now when you have that time, energy, desire, and it'll pay you dividends for the rest of your life.
There you go. There you go. So hopefully this episode helped you. We wanted to bring this up because this was the main topic that came out of that question that you asked in the group. Was like, I want to do more with my time, and they maybe your gym's great. Maybe the gym business isn't for you.
Yeah.
We need to face reality sometimes. Like, hey, if no matter what you do in the business just never wins, like maybe it is you, and you just need to do something else. If you're close, if it's break even, maybe up a little, maybe down a little, and you know that you have more in this business, you know it could do more, and that's what most of you listening know that you can do this. Your training's the best in town. You just wish you had more people.
Yeah.
You just wish they wouldn't leave. All those things, if that's you need to get on a coaching call with us, because we take businesses from good to great.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't really work very well with somebody that's on their last penny and it's a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
We don't work well over there because the resources are limited. We can only do specific things. If we have a specific play that we run for a business, and it gets, and you'll see on stage next year at the Growth Summit, all these awards we're giving out with massive record-breaking years.
Yeah. All
these gyms.
And when you're in that position, when you are that deep and you're backed against the, in the corner and you've got nothing, you operate out of desperation.
Yeah.
The only thing that's going to work in that situation, you got to stop looking for the next marketing play, because you can't afford to run it. You got to stop. You got to get your ass out there, and it's boots on the ground. I mean, you have to do the old school work. You have to build relationships. You have to meet new people. You have to share what you do for a living, and you have to do the manual labor to go and attract new members. That's the only way around it. And that level of work scares a lot of people. Oh, I don't want to do that. Well, that's okay. But if you tell me that you want this gym and you want the success of all of this, that's the work that you have to do. That is, I don't give a damn how well you train and do all of that if you don't have anybody coming through the four walls of your business.
What's that quote? Success doesn't happen a lot of times because it's disguised as hard work.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Well, that's the takeaway. You got to work hard. Yeah. It is what it is. So listen, guys, hopefully this helps you. Again, episode 400, we wanted to say thank you for allowing us to do this every week, twice a week. If you need help with anything, winninggym.com/grow is the ticket for you. And again, you guys, love to hear from you. Join the Facebook group, Business Talk with Fitness Professionals. That's where we have a lot of the chatter about the topics, about what we just talked about and everything else. So that's it for this episode, guys. Until next time, keep changing lives. We'll see you on the next show. Bye.
All right, and thank you for listening to that episode of the Built to Grow podcast, where we help gym owners win. Now, do you want to connect with me and other gym owners online? All you need to do is join our private Facebook group, Business Talk with Fitness Professionals. Just head on over to Facebook and type in Business Talk with Fitness Professionals, and when you do, we're going to give you our 10 marketing strategies 7-figure gym owners use to win. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Until then, keep building something great.